discussion where we talk about current market conditions and answer any questions you might have. What are the opportunities in the market? I'm going to go through specific trade ideas, so it's very important to read the disclosures. Optionsclearing.com is where you can understand the risk and suitability associated with trading stock or options. So I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not registered with FINRA nor SEC. I'm showing you what I do in my own account based on my own risk tolerance level for general education and information purposes only. Please consult your financial advisor prior to making any trading decisions. All right, before we jump into trading psychology, let's talk about current market conditions. Let's see. All right, so let's look at the interest rates. And here, let's look at 1 day. Right. So yield continues to be under pressure. We had a better than expected inflation data, CPI data, because of the government shutdown. You know, the data is not available, so that's kind of puts a little uncertainty in the market. So far, the reaction, I wouldn't say a lot in the bond market. It's no new signal. It's still below 4, right at 4% lower yield. I think that's good for the market. You know, it's easier to refinance the debt. Markets do better in lower interest rate environment. Dollar is stable since the first phase of the Liberation Day, kind of just trading the channel, so no new signal. High yield rebounded strongly, reclaimed 50-day moving average. So people are, you know, you can definitely see that the market is trying to break out, and you can see it in QQQ. So technology, and you know, based on the earnings, based on the AI demand, you do have a clear breakout in QQQ, semiconductors, and spiders, right? So they're all grinding higher. Small caps are still underperforming a little bit, but also at all-time high. So you have a widening of the participation. Gold, kind of a vertical move up, now consolidating. And let's see. Bitcoin has been underperforming, so it's still below 50-day moving average, kind of building the bottom. So that would be probably one of the bearish argument that there's divergence between Bitcoin and, you know, Nvidia and semiconductors. They're usually pretty highly correlated. You can see Nvidia is, you know, close to all-time high. And SPX is trading right at the 6,800. So we had new level 6,800 that we reached and kind of pulled back from that level. You can actually see if you look at stock forecast toolbox model for the past couple of days turning bullish, seeing momentum to the upside, potentially reaching 680 level. I think it did it a little bit ahead of itself because of the, again, extra momentum from the better than expected inflation data. So it's going towards 680 level. But positive trend. If you zoom out and look at the 6 months prediction, the trend is neutral. Basically saying 624 is your support, 676 is your overhead resistance for the months of October. And we're right at that level. And model that actually, you know, only sees next year that we get to the 700 level and 690, even though a lot of people think it's going to happen this year. So a lot of it will depend again on the relationship between China and the United States, because in terms of earnings, we're going in the right direction, right? There's still positive momentum, even though evaluations are a little bit overstretched from historical standards, but still earnings are better than expected. You have this strong AI demand that pushes the markets higher, and then inflation data is going in the right directions. Interest rates are going in the right direction. The only risk are the tariffs, right? I mean, Trump said, don't worry about it, we'll reach an agreement with China. But again, that doesn't mean that they're not going to impose 100% tariffs on China starting November 1st, because that's still on the table. And I think that's probably the biggest, as of right now, the biggest risk to the market. It's not the government shutdown, it's not the earnings, it's not high inflationary pressures, it's the tariffs, right, in the relationship between China and the United States. So we'll see what happens. Looking at the possibility of possible outcomes, right? If you now zoom out and look at the supply and demand for option contracts, even if you don't trade stock options, right? The options data, futures data can show you positioning, right? Where the people, how are people positioned and where. So you can see the gamma flip point is at 662, SPX call wall, let's see. Actually it's 6,800 to 7,000. So now the biggest as call is at 7,000. So people are building position at 7,000. A lot of people are bullish that think that by end of this year we can get to 7,000. Right, it's a lot more bullish than our model. It only thinks we can get to 700 by March. But again, totally possible. A lot of people are positioning at these levels, and this is new call wall. It could act as a gravitational force, right? It could act as a gravitational force, and if all things align, then these people will be right that we are reaching 7,000. 6,800 was the call wall from yesterday. We reached that level and kind of bouncing, unable to break it for now. So this is your new support. Resistance 6,800 and 6,700 is your support. So for now, market is trading in this range, and I would pay attention to these levels, especially if you're a short-term aggressive trader, right? This is support number one. This is resistance number one. This is week low. This week low 665, right? And this is 2-week low between 65 and 6,600. So these are your support levels, right? We already have 7,000, probably resistance number 3. I would break it apart like this: 6,800, 6,900, 7,000. So those are your support and resistance levels. And then the question is, what do you think is going to happen by end of the year? Who's right? Is the stock forecast Toolbox right that we're not going to get to the 700 level, or is it these guys are right that there are, invested $60 billion aggregate gamma exposure of $60 billion? So somebody invested $60 billion at 7,000 level. So let's let's don't look at the old dates. Let's just look at the supply and demand for, well, actually December. There's not much positioning in November, so almost irrelevant. December. So most of the positions are now concentrated in December expiration. All right. So scenario number one, these guys are right? And we're actually going to break 7,000 by end of the year, right? So that's scenario number one. All right, reach or break, right? So maybe this, I would go all the way here. Right, so that's scenario number one. Scenario number two, I mean, we're already at 6,800. It makes sense that we just trade somewhere between these ranges, right? The last 2-week low, right? The last couple weeks low and here, right? That's scenario number two. And this is maybe one standard deviation move, right? Based on the implied volatility data. This is looking at the implied volatility data, looking at the aggregate demand of supply and demand for option contracts that expire on end of December, third Friday in December. Based on that implied volatility move and current volatility and implied volatility, this is the range. And scenario number three, we don't reach agreement with China, right? Or Canada, right? There was news about the negotiations with Canada fell apart. I think first week of November, Mexico tariffs are due. There could be an escalation again. So then scenario number three, right? So how many of you think scenario number one, we're actually going to get to the 7,000 level? How many of you think no, we're not going to, there'll be, mixed signals between, risk from the tariffs, risk from government shutdown that could be prolonged and go into the end of the year, right? That's another uncertainty. So then you have scenario two. And then scenario number three is we're going to break below recent lows. Andre, welcome back. Joseph too. Okay. Anyone else? Melanie, what do you think? Once, Melanie, you raised a hand. You can type your questions inside of the questions, Melanie, or inside of chat. But questions, there, there should be a question tab, and you can just type. You can type in questions like Joseph did. I'm not sure what your questions are. All right. So two, Andre, thank you. I'm gonna go with two as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with two as well. I actually think we're not gonna break 7,000, but we're gonna get close, right? I mean, we're already at 6,800. So if China and if they either postponed, delay the 100% tariff, right? Kick the can down the road like for another 3 months, or they actually do reach an agreement. Highly unlikely. More likely outcome is that they're just gonna say, okay, we need another 90 days to negotiate, right? But if he's going to say like what he did with Canada last night, where our conversation is over, we can't reach an agreement, right? If he says with Canada, market didn't care, but if he says it was China, then it's much bigger, second largest economy, so markets will react. Melanie, no questions now. Perfect. Okay. No, not perfect, but okay. Thank you for responding. Dr. Simon is back. All right. So I'm going to go with two. I think we, assuming that relationship with China is not going to go south, then we could get to 7,000. If there is a escalation in tariffs, if the conversations or negotiations fall apart, then I think scenario 3 is more likely. But I don't think at this point they'll do it. We'll see. I'm actually keeping my head just in case, even though I don't think so. I am. If you follow me in a live trading room, you do know that I'm keeping my hedges. All right. So how do we help on Tradespoon? So some people look for signals. So we do have models, neural network models based on latest advances in AI that every day or every Sunday we have different models. Weekly trader, monthly trader, these are longer term models, have longer term outlook. They analyze larger data sets that go back more, analyzes more history. So this gets updated every weekly trader, and monthly trader gets updated every Sunday. Active trader gets updated every single day, right? Every single day we have signals. So today signals were Thermo Fisher Scientific, right? So you can see healthcare has been in a strong uptrend. Short term, not long term, and TMO is one of the stocks that just continues to break out, trading higher after the earnings. Model picked it up and basically tells you consider buying it at 542. That's predicted low. That's pretty wide. So 571, yesterday's close. So 571, potentially break the trades into two. So I do suggest using, if you're trading options, you can also trade options, right? It gives you choice stock or options. I would split the trade into two. For options, you can use different strikes, different expiration months. Stocks, just divided the entry into two, have a position. And then you're looking for 1% stop loss. So if you enter at 571, 1% roughly $6, that's 566, right? You split the trade into two. And most important, if you look at these important notes, is that you only have 4 active positions at a time with a loss of 2.5% of account value per position. Right? That would be your maximum loss. So that's something that I would consider. And you have JCI and different other signals on daily, and they're provided on daily basis. You can see, okay, what about yesterday? What was signal? Also, TMO was a signal yesterday, and Halliburton, some of the energy names. So gives you opportunity to build a portfolio. And if you want to use leverage, then you just go to options tab. Same thing. We're still using underlying stock for support and resistance level, but you get leverage, right? You can trade weekly options or monthly options, expires this Friday or next Friday. But stop loss is still, we're using 1% of underlying stock. So if you entered the option at 336.90, then 1% loss is 31. 1% loss of stock. So that's active trader, right? Active trader. Weekly trader gets updated every Sunday, once a week. So on Sunday you get an email with the stocks that are in trading in uptrend. So you have MKC, Caterpillar is an uptrend, Bank of America is an uptrend. So if same thing on Monday, you come in, you have a choice, either use predicted low or Friday's close, right? Split the trade into two. Here I'm looking for 2.5% stop loss, right? 2.5% of $50 is $2.50. That does not make sense. Oh, sorry, 2% of $50 is $1. I'm losing my mind a little bit. Okay, so 49.62. All right, so $1 stop loss. Same thing. I mean, if you want to leverage it, then you go into options tab, and then you can see what was the signal the week ago. Okay, so some of the utilities company like Edison Electric or Coca-Cola, right? 2 weeks ago was a signal. So that would be some of these signals that you can use. You would trade on your own, right? If you have questions, right? Sometimes the stock gaps up, right? Like if this was signal today, and then you wake up and there's a gap and you're not sure what to do, or what if it's $1.50, right? You have that range. If you don't have a trading plan, right? If you don't have exact trading plan and you haven't done this before, right? Short-term trading, or longer-term trading, we do offer one-on-one coaching. So I do encourage you to consider one-on-one coaching. In the footer, you can just click and fill out the application and meet for half an hour. It's free, no obligations, with our coaching team, and they'll can tell you about custom trading plan specific for your needs, right? Because we all manage a different amount of money. We all have different years of experience, different strategies. So you can get a coach that, we have really good coaches that have been doing this for many years, and they can help you build your own trading plan. Obviously, it takes time commitment, financial commitment, because you have one-on-one coach. If the alternative is to join elite trading circles. Here we have myself and Keith, right? Keith, background from Options Hotline. His background is market making and hedge funds, and he's is extremely well versed in options trading. And then you have Morning Bell between me and him every day, and then the closing bell. Any questions? One second. One second. All right. Any questions? All right, Andre, Joseph, Matthew is back. Simon, any of you are new? Type in yes if this is your first. So in Elite Circle, you can ask questions. So between Keith and I, we have Morning Bell, Closing Bell. You have your Getting Started guide, special different reports that you can look, right? And then there is a Getting Started guide. We do have educational platform, so you can go to Education Center. Same thing, there's a Getting Started guide, different contents, FAQs, dedicated support. So a lot of questions could be answered here. Walkthrough video, trading guide. And then what else? And then in Lead Circle, you can also, I mean, you can watch recordings. You can watch there's a recording every day. Keith and I does recordings, and trader log, right? Here you can see actually all of our trades, which synchronize with broker-dealer account, right? You get SMS alerts, you can get Discord alerts, and so some of the examples. So today I trimmed Amazon, right? I trimmed Amazon. It was a nice move to the upside. Trying to close Ford. This is an example of iron condor. So I trade both stock and options. Ford is around earnings, some of them around earnings, some of them around just momentum and the model signal. So this week's signal was Micron. So I'm trying to get out of the Micron option. But here I actually did an example of the stock. So we have different services, different subscriptions. Some people only trade options. Some people trade stocks. So in this example, I did both stock and option. And option, I already closed half of the position for a nice 4% move since Monday. And then I'm trying to get out of the spread as well. Right. So you can see kind of using this example of dollar cost average, and weekly trader was 2.5%, right? So monthly trader is 5%. So in this example, the profit was close to 4%, I think. Yeah, 205 to 13.8, 4%. And also do hedges, right? So I've been trading around spiders to hedge the portfolio, right? So continue to hold the puts, even though we are breaking out. But I still have give an example of how to hedge your portfolio. I still think you don't want to always be long all the positions, right? Some positions you want to be short, right? Very unusual concepts, especially if you're new to trading. A lot of people say, well, I never realize you can be long and short the market at the same time, right? That's what a lot of hedge funds do. They have long short equity fund overlaid with options, where they buy the strong stocks and basically sell the weak stocks, right? So this is the same idea and you can do in different percentages, right? If you're market neutral, you can say 1-to-1. If you're bullish, then you can say, okay, I want 50% more bullish positions, which is fine. But I think at least one position you want to have as a hedge right now, right? So I have Spider's put spread, or QQQ put spread is another example that you can use. And this, you have exposure real time, where you can look at this. What else? We have some good research tools. I like seasonal chart. A lot of people like seasonality. I like seasonality. Correlation has dropped 66%, but you can see that usually we're approaching now November, December, very strong time of the year. And you can, we've seen idea of implied volatility, what the estimated move. You can look at the historical volatility, right? So basically showing you that we could be at 681, 76% probability we're going to stay in the range between 662 and 681, right? And that's what implied volatility also. Implied volatility is a little bit higher because VIX jumped recently. It thinks it can get to 690, but that's the range. That's the range you can expect the market to stay. And you can type in any symbols. You can do, what about QQQ, right? Same idea, right? You can look at seasonality of QQQ, right? Usually pretty bullish November, December, different technical analysis, MACD crossovers, Fisher transform, and the same thing, probability calculator. What else? Screeners, some bullish ideas on screeners. If you're looking for screeners, and then what else? If you just want stock trading, we have robo-investor. Some people say, Vlad, every time I see options, I don't feel comfortable. So we have just stock portfolio, robo-investor. We have some people just want to do option spreads. So we have a spread trader, premium portfolios. This is where you would see Micron trade, right? So this is where Micron got published on October 20th, right? With the video explaining why I got into the trade, strike price selections, and it gives you a choice. You can do a spread. If you don't want to do spread, you can do options. If you don't want to do options, okay, you buy stock, right? But same idea. So that's something that I like. And then what? And then forecast toolbox. This is, a lot of people use it religiously, right? They, every time we even have unavailable for 1 minute, they can, So this is a great model that works really well, right? I cannot predict whether we will reach an agreement with China or not, but it shows you what the sentiment right now is, right? The sentiment is bullish. People are positioning bullish, and it tells you that, you know, we could reach 687 level, right? Just like what this model says, completely different model, right? It basically says that, you know, you should not be surprised if, you know, by end of December you see 681 print. That will be one standard. You know, above 700, that's 2 standard deviation. But 681 by end of the year, okay, that's totally reasonable, right? And that's what, you know, this model also shows you. Any questions? If there are no questions, then I know you guys, Joseph, Andre, you guys here every day. Not every day, but at least every week. Next Friday, we're gonna have the same event. So if you guys in Chicago area, or if you like, you have relatives, so you just wanna visit Chicago and get some, you know, pizza and hot dogs and nice restaurants and Skyline. We do have a live event on November 6th at 9 and 3, where both Keith and I will be, along with other presenters, and we're gonna go through meet in person, have lunch, have coffee, you know, socialize, and, you know, provide you with the quality content, and hopefully you guys can make it live. I put it the link on the you know, set of questions. All right, if there are no other questions, that's all I have for today. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much, and have a great day.